Section: Introduction. In this section, we discuss the critical role of benchmarks in machine learning, highlighting their influence on research and funding. We note that the rise of generative AI models has intensified the pressure on leaderboards, with Chatbot Arena emerging as a key platform for comparing these models. Established in 2023, Chatbot Arena allows users to submit prompts and rank responses from different models, filling a gap in evaluation during rapid technological advancements. However, we recognize that reliance on a single leaderboard can lead to overfitting, where providers focus on leaderboard performance rather than genuine technological progress. We reference Goodhart's law, which suggests that when a measure becomes a target, it loses its effectiveness. Our analysis reveals that a small group of providers has gained disproportionate advantages in testing and data access, which can distort Arena ratings. We conducted a systematic review of Chatbot Arena, analyzing data from 2 million battles and auditing 42 providers and 243 models over a specific timeframe. Our findings indicate that certain providers, like Meta and Google, have benefited from extensive private testing, allowing them to select the best-performing models without public transparency. We also found that proprietary model providers receive significantly more feedback data compared to open-source models, leading to skewed rankings. Moreover, we observed that many models have been silently deprecated, which undermines the reliability of the leaderboard. Our involvement in submitting open-weight models to Chatbot Arena prompted us to investigate these discrepancies, leading to our systematic analysis. We believe that while Chatbot Arena has played an important role in the community, it has also developed issues that need addressing to restore trust and accuracy. We have shared our recommendations with the organizers to help improve the situation. Section Summary. In this section, we discuss the critical role of benchmarks like Chatbot Arena in evaluating generative AI models, highlighting how preferential treatment and data asymmetries have led to distorted rankings and potential overfitting by providers. Our analysis reveals significant disparities in data access and testing practices among model developers, raising concerns about the reliability of leaderboard results and the need for interventions to restore scientific integrity. Section: Overview of Methodology. In this section, we provide an overview of our methodology, focusing on the Arena score, which is the main metric used in Chatbot Arena to rank models based on human evaluations. Users compare two models at a time, voting on which one performs better or if they are tied. A simple way to calculate rankings would be to average the win rates of each model, counting how often they win. However, this method overlooks the strength of opponents and requires all models to compete against each other. Additionally, treating all wins equally can lead to misleading rankings, especially when models face opponents of different strengths. Instead, we use the Arena score, which is a normalized version of the Bradley-Terry model. This probabilistic framework estimates skill levels based on pairwise comparisons and is commonly used in various fields, including online gaming and sports rankings. Compared to other systems like Elo, which was used in earlier versions of Chatbot Arena, the Bradley-Terry model offers a more reliable and statistically sound basis for ranking. It provides well-calibrated estimates, accommodates ties and missing comparisons, and gives confidence intervals for rankings, assuming the model's conditions are met. However, the effectiveness of the Bradley-Terry model relies on several key assumptions. Understanding these assumptions is crucial for our discussions in later sections, where we explore how violations can impact the reliability of Arena rankings. The model assumes that comparisons are unbiased, allowing each model's skill to be estimated independently based on representative outcomes. It also does not require all models to compete against each other due to the transitive nature of rankings. If one model beats another, and that model beats a third, we can infer the first model is better than the third, even without a direct match. Lastly, it assumes that all models are interconnected through pairwise matchups. Any deviations from these assumptions, like biased comparisons or a fragmented network, can undermine the reliability of the skill estimates. Next, we discuss the impact of private testing and selective retraction on Arena scores. Our audit of chatbot arena data revealed that providers often test multiple private model variants simultaneously without needing to publicly disclose these submissions. We tracked the number of private variants for each provider from January to March 2025, finding that Meta and Google had 27 and 10 private models, respectively, before releasing their Llama 4 and Gemma 3 models. This is likely a conservative estimate, as it only includes private variants on the main chatbot arena and not on specialized leaderboards. For instance, if we consider Meta's private models on the Vision leaderboard, the total rises to 43. In contrast, smaller startups like Reka had only one active private variant. During this period, Cohere submitted 4 private variants, marking their first time testing private models in the chatbot arena. Our observations suggest that testing multiple variants has been a long-standing practice among some providers. Over the past year, we noted that major LLM providers like Google, xAI, and OpenAI frequently announced top-performing variants within days of each other. For example, OpenAI's GPT 4.5 and Xai's Grok 3 topped the leaderboard on the same day, March 4, 2025. Given the time needed to develop and test a foundation model, it seems unlikely for the same provider to dominate the leaderboard twice in a week without testing multiple variants. In our simulations, we demonstrate that rapid turnover on the leaderboard can result from providers optimizing their scores by testing several models in parallel. Notably, we found that no private models were tested by academic labs during this time, suggesting that only certain providers were aware of the option to submit multiple private variants, leading to clear differences in private testing frequency among providers. Section Summary. In this section, we introduce the ARENA score, a ranking metric for chatbot models based on human pairwise comparisons, which utilizes the Bradley-Terry model to provide a statistically grounded assessment of model performance while addressing the limitations of simpler win rate averages. We also discuss the prevalence of private testing among major providers, revealing that companies like Meta and Google frequently test multiple private model variants, potentially influencing leaderboard outcomes, while smaller startups and academic labs have limited participation in this practice. Section: Simulated Experiments on Private Testing and Retraction. In this section, we explore how private testing combined with the option to retract allows organizations to implement a best-of-N strategy. This means they can submit multiple model variants to the chatbot arena, evaluate them privately, and only publish the best-performing one on the leaderboard. We demonstrate that this best-of-N approach violates the unbiased sampling assumption, leading to inflated model rankings and distorted leaderboard results. To understand the selection bias, we consider a scenario where a provider submits 4 variants of a model, each with a true skill level drawn from a distribution centered around a base skill level. The more variants submitted, the higher the chance of finding an exceptionally high-performing one. However, since each submission is subject to random fluctuations, choosing the best variant based on observed performance introduces an upward bias. This means the expected performance of the best variant is higher than that of a typical submission, which contradicts the unbiased sampling assumption and skews the likelihood landscape. Consequently, the reported ratings reflect extreme values rather than a true estimate of skill, leading to inflated ratings for models submitted under the best-of-N strategy. We also note that in the chatbot arena, only a few providers are aware of private testing, and there is a significant difference in the number of private models tested. For instance, Meta tested 27 private variants before launching Llama 4. To analyze how the number of private tests affects model selection, we simulate the process of identifying the best model from a set of variants. We assume the true ARENA scores of these variants follow a normal distribution with a mean of 1200. In our simulations, as we increase the number of privately tested models, we find that the expected maximum ARENA score also increases. Testing just 10 variants can lead to an increase of about 100 points in the maximum score compared to a scenario with no private testing. We observe that only a select few providers have access to private testing, allowing them to test many variants and choose the best one. This can create situations where a weaker family of models, enabled with private testing, outperforms a stronger family that is limited to a single submission. Although both families have similar performance ranges, the models in the weaker family can achieve higher rankings by leveraging private testing. In the development of large language models, LLMs, it is common for providers to end up with multiple variants, each excelling in different areas due to variations in training strategies. Choosing a final model often involves balancing performance across various evaluation sets. A strong performance on a leaderboard can significantly influence this decision, leading providers to favor specific variants that excel in the evaluation framework. Thus, using an informed selection strategy for model variants can enhance a provider's ranking on the leaderboard compared to an unguided selection process. Section Summary. In this section, we demonstrate that the best of N strategy in private testing leads to biased model rankings, as selecting the highest performing variant inflates scores and distorts leaderboard outcomes. We also observe that asymmetries in private testing access allow some providers to outperform stronger models by leveraging multiple evaluations, ultimately affecting their leaderboard positions. Section: Real-World Chatbot Arena Experiment. In this section, we describe our real-world experiment to validate our earlier simulation findings regarding chatbot model rankings. Our simulation indicated that when model submissions are not standardized, those with more private model variants gain an unfair advantage. Since we lack access to the final scores of these private models, we designed an experiment to explore this issue further. We first examined a conservative scenario where we submitted two identical versions of the IA Vision -8B model to the arena in March 2025. By only releasing the best score from these identical checkpoints, we aim to measure the potential benefits of multiple submissions without attributing score differences to model quality. We found significant score differences between the identical checkpoints, indicating that even identical models can yield biased advantages. Next, we looked at a more realistic scenario where a provider optimizes the differences between model variants. We compared two different versions of the IA Vision 32B model, each performing slightly better on different benchmarks. The scores showed a notable range, with several models positioned between the two variants on the leaderboard. We also analyzed the impact of model deprecation on arena scores. We found that a significant number of models, particularly open-source ones, have been deprecated, which raises concerns about the reliability of model rankings. When older models are deprecated, new models lack direct comparisons, although the BT model should still manage rankings based on transitivity. This means if one model is better than another, and that model is better than a third, we can infer the first model is also better than the third. However, transitivity relies on certain conditions. First, evaluation conditions must remain constant. If they change, comparisons may not reflect true performance. Second, all models must be interconnected through matchups. If they aren't, we can't reliably infer rankings. We will further investigate whether the chatbot arena meets these conditions in the following sections. Section Summary. In this section, we design a real-world experiment to validate our simulation findings on the advantages of submitting multiple model variants in the chatbot arena, revealing that even identical models can yield biased score differences. We also explore the impact of model deprecation on ranking reliability, highlighting how excessive deprecation can disrupt the transitivity needed for accurate model comparisons. Section: Transitivity under changing evaluation conditions. In this section, we explore how changing evaluation conditions affect transitivity. We previously noted that the distribution of chatbot arena is unique due to long-term shifts in categories and use cases. This differs from the stable environments seen in ELO and Bradley-Terry systems, like chess, where rules remain constant, ensuring consistent evaluation conditions. If all models were continuously sampled over time, the Bradley-Terry model would likely stay reliable, as every model would be assessed on the changing distribution of tasks. However, many models become outdated and their scores stop being updated. To understand how model deprecations affect rankings under changing task distributions, we simulate Bradley-Terry rankings for models facing evolving evaluation conditions. We start with 4 models, A, B, C, and D, each with different performance levels across 2 task types, Task 1 and Task 2. These tasks represent various prompt categories, and each model's strength is defined by its win probabilities against others. For instance, Model B has a 90% chance of winning against Model D in Task 1 but only a 20% chance in Task 2. The win probabilities for each model are detailed in a table, reflecting their strengths across tasks. Our simulation consists of 2 phases to replicate the changing task distribution seen in Chatbot Arena. In the first phase, battles mainly come from Task 1, with each model participating in 1,000 battles to establish initial rankings. In the second phase, the focus shifts gradually to Task 2, affecting battle outcomes based on task-specific win rates. We conduct another 1,000 battles in this phase and analyze 2 scenarios to see how changes in prompt distribution and model deprecations impact final rankings. In Scenario I, we simulate all 2,000 battles without any model deprecations, allowing all models to compete throughout both phases. This ideal scenario ensures that all models are evaluated across the evolving task distribution. In Scenario 2, we again simulate all 2,000 battles, but Model D is deprecated after Phase 1 and does not compete in Phase 2. Our findings show that rankings from the Bradley-Terry model are highly sensitive to model deprecations, especially when prompt distributions change. In the no deprecation scenario, we see accurate rankings reflecting true performance. However, when Model D is deprecated, the rankings of Models A and D drop, while Models B and C rise, misrepresenting their actual performance. Comparing the 2 scenarios reveals a significant divergence in rankings, with the deprecation scenario yielding unreliable results that do not accurately reflect true performance. This undermines the Bradley-Terry model's core assumptions, as rankings should reflect consistent matchups. When models are not sampled under current task distributions, past comparisons no longer represent present performance, which is problematic in real-world situations where user prompt distributions evolve. Next, we discuss how a deprecation policy can create sparse comparison graphs, leading to distorted rankings. If models can be divided into 2 groups without comparisons, or if one group always wins, the maximum likelihood estimate becomes impossible. To ensure a unique estimation, the comparison graph must be connected, meaning there should be at least one win in each direction across any model partition. We simulate 2 scenarios to examine how sparse comparison graphs affect rankings from the Bradley-Terry model. In Scenario I, we allow all models to compete against each other, resulting in a well-connected comparison graph. In Scenario 2, we create a disconnected battle history by limiting which models can compete, leading to a sparse history. In both scenarios, we conduct 2,000 battles. For a match between models A and B, we calculate expected scores based on their true skill ratings. We assign specific ratings to each model, which we use to determine expected scores and match outcomes. We then compute Bradley-Terry scores for all models in both scenarios to establish their ranks. Our results show that sparse or disconnected graphs lead to unreliable rankings. Rankings from the dense comparison graph closely match the true skill ratings of the models, while a sparse graph results in inaccurate skill estimations. This emphasizes that reliable rankings under the Bradley-Terry model require a connected comparison graph. While some model removals are unavoidable, maintaining connectivity is crucial to ensure that comparisons remain well distributed across active models and that transitions do not isolate subsets from the overall comparison structure. Section Summary. In this section, we investigate how model deprecations and changing task distributions affect rankings in the Bradley-Terry model, revealing that deprecating models leads to unreliable rankings due to a lack of updated comparisons. Our simulations demonstrate that a connected comparison graph is essential for accurate rankings, as sparse or disconnected graphs distort the true performance of models. Section: Recommendations and Guidelines for Improving Leaderboards. In this section, we present recommendations that we consider urgent and essential for enhancing leaderboards and restoring trust in the research community. First, we suggest prohibiting score retraction after submission. Currently, providers can retract submissions and only display their best results, which can lead to misleading conclusions about model performance. We believe that all scores from tested variants should remain visible on the leaderboard, and providers should disclose the total number of private variants tested before public release to provide context for their results. Next, we propose establishing clear limits on the number of private variants each provider can submit. The current variability in private testing creates unfair advantages, so we recommend a strict cap on the number of private variants per provider for any model launch. This limit should be communicated to all providers and the broader community to discourage excessive undisclosed testing while allowing for some iteration. We also call for clear and auditable criteria for model retirement. The existing criteria are vague and difficult to apply consistently. We suggest a more structured approach that retires the bottom 30% of models in each category, proprietary, open weight, and open source, after rankings stabilize. This method would help maintain fairness and visibility for strong models from underrepresented groups. Additionally, we emphasize the need to improve sampling fairness. Current sampling rates disproportionately favor proprietary models, which undermines the community-driven nature of the benchmark. We recommend adopting an active sampling strategy that prioritizes under-evaluated model pairs to enhance the robustness of the leaderboard. Finally, we advocate for greater transparency regarding all tested models, their deprecations, and sampling rates. Access to this information would foster trust and oversight within the community. We suggest that Chatbot Arena regularly publish details about tested and deprecated models, including those that are no longer sampled, to keep everyone informed about the leaderboard's dynamics. Section Summary. In this section, we provide urgent recommendations to enhance the integrity of leaderboards, including prohibiting score retraction after submission, establishing limits on private variants per provider, and clarifying model deprecation criteria to ensure transparency and fairness. We also advocate for improved sampling fairness and public transparency regarding tested models and their sampling rates to foster trust within the research community. Section: Limitations. In this section, we discuss the limitations of our study. First, we lack access to the raw data from Chatbot Arena. Some of the data we used has been processed by Chatbot Arena, which includes removing duplicates and suspicious voting patterns. We also note that private battles are excluded from the datasets they release. Although we have some proprietary API data for the models we tested, it only shows a limited number of battles. This lack of comprehensive raw data makes it difficult for us to explore issues like adversarial voting, where users might manipulate rankings. Previous research has highlighted that adversarial voting is a significant concern for the reliability of platforms like Chatbot Arena, and we see this as an important area for future investigation. Next, our scraped data only covers a short period from January to March 2025, which coincided with Meta's launch of Llama 4. This means we found Meta to have the most private variants in our analysis, but we might be underestimating counts for other providers with fewer launches during this time. We also recognize that our training experiments likely underestimate the risk of overfitting. Our estimates are based on a small fraction of the data that some proprietary models might use, which could be 5 to 10 times larger. This suggests that proprietary models may be better at avoiding overfitting to patterns not present in our smaller dataset, highlighting the need for further examination of data scale and its effects on model performance. Additionally, we rely on how models self-identify to attribute private models to their providers. Since anonymous models do not disclose their identities, we prompt each model and attribute it based on consistent responses. While this method gives us a reasonable signal, it is not perfect, and some misattributions may occur. We encourage communication from providers if our ownership estimates are incorrect. In terms of related work, we contribute to the broader discussion on the importance of benchmarks in machine learning. Benchmarking shapes research priorities and incentives, but it is often influenced by the environments in which they are created. Creating reliable benchmarks is challenging, and there are ongoing discussions about the need for better standards and practices. We also note that static leaderboards can lead to overfitting and data contamination, while dynamic benchmarks like Chatbot Arena reduce this risk. However, certain practices can still favor larger players with more data, potentially skewing model development. The lack of standardization across benchmarks complicates comparisons, as inconsistent metrics and definitions can mislead practitioners. Additionally, many commonly used benchmarks do not accurately reflect real-world performance, creating a disconnect between test scores and practical utility. Recent studies have shown that models can perform well on benchmarks but struggle in real-world applications, emphasizing the need for dynamic and standardized evaluations. Section Summary. In this section, we acknowledge several limitations in our study, including the lack of access to raw data from Chatbot Arena, which hampers our ability to investigate adversarial voting patterns. Additionally, our analysis is constrained by a limited data snapshot and potential underestimation of overfitting risks due to the smaller dataset used compared to proprietary models, highlighting the need for further research on data scale and benchmark reliability. Section: Human voting-based benchmarks. In this section, we explore the role and advantages of human voting-based benchmarks. An example of this is the Chatbot Arena, which relies on human judgment as a key method for evaluating the quality of outputs generated by models. We believe that these models should reflect human values, and certain qualities like coherence, harmlessness, and readability are best judged by people. Platforms such as Chatbot Arena, Talk Arena, and Game Arena effectively use crowdsourcing to gather extensive user prompts and feedback. Many of these platforms utilize ranking systems similar to ELO or BT styles to evaluate models. Additionally, collecting data on human preferences is crucial for alignment techniques like reinforcement learning from human feedback, which helps refine models to produce more natural and preferred responses. We find that human voting can reduce some biases that arise from using large language models as judges, which, while enhancing evaluation efficiency, may also introduce concerns about robustness and bias. We also recognize that live leaderboards have advantages over static benchmarks, such as a lower risk of data contamination and better adaptability to changing evaluation needs. However, we acknowledge that voting-based benchmarks like Chatbot Arena face their own evaluation challenges. Despite efforts to ensure reliability and security, like detecting malicious users and implementing protections against bots, recent studies have shown that these leaderboards can be susceptible to manipulation. Adversarial users can de-anonymize model responses and execute targeted voting attacks, which raises concerns about the trustworthiness of the rankings. While our study does not specifically address adversarial voting, we note that Chatbot Arena's practice of notifying model providers when testing starts and revealing model aliases may create opportunities for leaderboard manipulation.